up, you guys? Jasati out here in Singapore. As always, thank you so much for joining me on this Night Out podcast. And you know what? I've been talking to my girl Tomasa out in California, and we've been discussing a couple of things because she actually happens to be a shaman, and we were talking about what it means to be a shaman. Like back in the day when we lived in villages, the shaman was actually the elder in the village, the person who knew the most about, medicinal plants, how to naturally cure and heal the body, things like that. And in many shamanic societies, if you came to the medicine person complaining of being disheartened, dispirited, depressed, any of those things, they would actually ask one of four questions. And I thought this was really cool. So I saw this particular post and it asked those actual questions. So I was able to discuss it with Tomas a little bit. And I really love these questions because they're so simple. They're very, very simple, but they have such meaning and there would be so much depth to answering the question itself. You'd be able to pinpoint where things started to change and whether or not you can change them back or at least adjust and keep going in a specific way. So one of four questions, right? So the first question is, when did you stop dancing? And honestly, I think it's something that's so simple but fundamental because at some point when you were a kid, you dance for no reason at all. I mean, if I watch my daughter, she will dance when she's eating good food. She will dance or skip when we're walking home from school and she's actually in a good mood. She will dance if she's excited about anything. If she thinks something's funny or she sees that, I'm not exactly happy or something's bothering me, she'll get up in front of me and start dancing, like some silly dance with some sly look on her face. And it will make me laugh, but it's something that she does just automatically. She doesn't think about it. It's like a reflex almost. But if I look at the question itself for myself, right, and I think about, all right, well, when was the last time I danced for the hell of dancing? I really have to be in really, really high spirits to actually stop what I'm doing and dance, as in like dance like a crazy person around my house or, dance in the street, listen to music, sing at the top of my lungs, any of those things. It's very, very controlled now because I'm very conscious of the way I look. So the first question is, when did you stop dancing? The second question is, when did you stop singing? And I hate to say it, I've let other people's ideas and opinions get into my head to the point that I don't do things that I used to do as a child, things that I took for granted because it's been shushed out of me kind of. And I remember this moment actually when my baby girl was actually very young. I used to go to work at the Grand Hyatt, and when I came home, I had the opportunity to ring the doorbell on the way in. Even though I had the keys, right? I used to ring the doorbell on purpose because I could hear on the other side of the door her start to go crazy and jump up and down and start screeching at the top of her lungs because she was excited. But with enough time and enough input from my family, she eventually stopped doing that because it was causing my grandparents a little bit of anxiety because they weren't used to the noise. So she was shushed to a point where she wasn't allowed to scream and jump and yell and be excited when she heard that I was, key in the lock, doorbell ringing or whatever, that I was about to come in the house. And that made me sad. So I had to really think about that because when you ask when was the last time I danced just for the hell of dancing, or when was the last time I sang for the hell of singing, singing, not so bad because I actually sing in my kitchen while I cook, but dancing not as often because I have to feel like I'm in a safe enough place where I won't be judged to be able to dance. And a lot of times it also needs to be a moment where I don't have a million other things going on. I don't have to be worried about, whether I have time to dance or not, if I'm in the mood to dance or not. A lot of things go into that. And I kind of hate that I actually answer the question that way because if you think about it, it's kind of sad. Third question, when did you stop being enchanted by stories? And then fourth question, when did you stop finding comfort in the sweet territory of silence? So let me go with the third question first. Stop being enchanted by stories. Okay, I am going to confess something. It is very, very terrible. It speaks to me as a mother and the value I put on motherhood and whether I'm doing it justice or not. Honestly, I don't get carried away by her stories as often. A lot of times because I'm going a mile a minute, I have the phone in my hand, I have people messaging me all the time. And even when we're walking home from school, if she's telling me this happened at school today and I tried this today and my friend did this today and my teacher said that today, I'm like, but I'm not actually registering what she's saying. And that's my fault. I don't put things aside and stop enough for me to actually enjoy the small moments like these, because guess what? Enough and she like catches on to what I'm doing, she's gonna stop telling me anything altogether, and that's gonna be on me. I can't blame her for that. I stopped being a safe space where she could share. So that's something I'm very cognizant of at the moment. And as much as I'd like to say that I got it down pat, I make sure I'm there for her every time, I'm not. I'm going to be very honest. There are a lot of times where I have 3 of my clients calling at the same time. They've all got each of their own crises going on while baby girl is telling the story, and I got to be like, shh, can you hold on for a second? And I do. I speak kind of harshly to her sometimes, and I feel terribly about that. But afterwards, I always make sure that I go back and apologize and explain to her what exactly is going on. To which I've also been told off by her, where she says, well, you're always on the phone with somebody. Why can't you just take time for me? So usually she will put me in my place and remind me that she's also a priority. And usually I would catch myself in the middle of all this and tell the clients that they have to wait for a moment until I have a free moment to speak to them so I can actually be there with baby girl. So, as far as being enchanted by stories, when I make the time, absolutely I'm enchanted by stories. But it's the make the time part that kind of catches me off guard a lot of times because I let the details of my life kind of take over more often than not. The last question is, when did you stop finding comfort in sweet territory of silence? You know what? I'm actually really pleased that I can say I didn't really stop. Okay, that's a lie. I stopped for a while I was running a house of 5 in the US. But since I came home, since I rejigged my entire life so that it's the things that I want to do when I want to do it, the people that I want to be around, I've kind of recreated my own life in the perfect image, as perfect an image as I could come up with because I needed it to be so, which means I have a lot of free time and a lot of silence that I get to deal with, which means I have to be the adult. I have to choose to do work versus sit and vegetate. I have to choose to put my phone aside and kind of just be there with my own thoughts and sort out my own feelings rather than get carried away with social media. But I have that space. So while baby girl is at school, I have a lot of silence and a lot of space, and I'm happy for that. And I'm glad I haven't filled it with things or people because I know for my own work, for my own sanity, for the happiness of my child, I need that space. I need that silence. So that's 1 out of 4 that I do pretty well, I think. 2 out of 4 that I'm very cognizant of. Singing and dancing, I could work a little bit more on. But if you think about it, there's a lot that we allow other people to say and to offer as far as opinion or judgment that really does get absorbed by us and we kind of carry it with us. I remember when I stopped singing. I'll tell you that. I remember when I stopped singing. I used to love singing. I was the girl that, if we were in an assembly or if we were like, I don't know, doing something boring and mundane where we had to stand around and just take up space for a class or whatever, I was the one who would be singing under my breath and imitating pop stars and stuff like that. Singing under my breath because when I sing under my breath, I don't have to worry about the pitch being wrong and I don't have to worry about whether I can carry a tune or not. It kind of sounds good anyway. But I used to do that all the time until I met my college sweetheart, and he would tell me that he didn't really like my voice because he said it was too low for a woman and I shouldn't be singing. It made him feel uncomfortable, so I stopped. I was so self-conscious after that I didn't enjoy singing. I mean, I'm a music nerd. I love music from pretty much every genre. So for me not to be able to sing in front of him it took a little bit of effort. I had to consciously stop from singing and remember that he was going to say something mean if I did, so I just shut my mouth and kept on going. So that's when I stopped singing. And it took me, goodness, that was back in like 2000 something. And it took me a good 15 years to kind of fall back in love with my voice, or at least appreciate it for what it was and accept it just the way it was and not try to adjust it or change it or be something I'm not. So here I am with a podcast that I finally like the sound of my voice, but there was a time that I didn't like how I sounded because it was colored by someone else's opinion of my voice. One out of millions of people. But yeah, that one carried some weight because he mattered to me, and so I stopped singing. As far as dancing, I think I've always danced. I will say this, I stopped going out to places where I could dance after, let's see, that was a little more recent actually. It was more like 2014, 2015, because I realized that I didn't know how to go out and have a good time and dance for the hell of dancing without being drunk first. So I stopped that because I realized that if I can't dance without being inebriated, I had no business dancing. And for a person who was a dancer for many, many years, for good 15 years of my life, that was kind of embarrassing and shameful that I wasn't able to dance simply because I wanted to. I needed the excuse of being drunk to feel safe and confident to be able to do it. It's almost as if like I had given alcohol this power over me where I felt better when I could explain it off or brush it off or justify the way I was dancing on the alcohol. Like it's, I blame it on the alcohol. Oh, I was dancing this way because of the alcohol. No, I actually like to dance that way. It's not vulgar. It's not pure better than I am. It's a mixture fusion of whatever beat happens to be playing, and I just love to dance. But I was always very self-conscious of the way things are done here in Singapore and the way people like to talk because, I mean, That's their favorite pastime besides, uncles who pick their noses. They like to talk about what people do and how people do it. And it was getting to a point where I would get a lot of comments about the way I dance. So I just stopped. And I blamed it on the alcohol again. And I said, no, it's because I'm not drinking that I didn't dance as often anymore. But slowly but surely, I'm pushing myself to get back into the swing of things because let's face it, I'm a dancer who doesn't dance and I freaking miss it. So when it comes to shamanic societies, all the way back at the beginning here, when we actually go to the elder in our village and ask them for advice on how to rectify a situation, why is it that I feel, I'm complaining about life, I am disheartened, I am dispirited, I am depressed, I don't feel great about my life, I've kind of lost my way a little bit, I don't know what's wrong, but I don't feel good about my life or my role in it. These are the 4 questions that they would ask, and I thought it was fabulous because they're very simple questions with very complex answers, and you kind of have to dig back and think about why any of these things stop. So once again, the 4 questions are: when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by stories? And when did you stop finding comfort in the sweet territory of silence? Now, for those of you out there who have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Meanwhile, I would love, 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 love if you would ponder these 4 questions and see if you can figure anything out for yourself because, yep, I actually broke it down for you based on my life, but I wonder if you will discover something new about you by trying to figure out when you stopped dancing, when you stopped singing, when you stopped, engaging in such conversation that you can get lost in the stories that are being shared, and when you started being uncomfortable with silence, because let's face it, that's another thing that's kind of conditioned to us or for us. We are conditioned by society. So once again, you guys, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And as always, I love you and I will catch you again soon. Bye.